13 Reasons Why has become a major pop culture attraction this past year. Both the book and TV show tell the story of a teenage girl who commits suicide. Her reasons are discovered through tapes she leaves for people throughout the town. The story has been controversial. It's been praised by some, criticized by others. Tonight, it will be the focus of a special book club in Regina. Top Shelf Book Club brings together local celebrity panelists for deeper discussions. And tonight, it's all about 13 Reasons Why. Evan Bray is chief of the Regina Police Service. Jim Demeray is the president and co-founder of Understand Us, a volunteer initiative that combats the stigma of mental health. Both of them will be panelists tonight at the George Bothwell Library. But first, they're joining us in our Regina studio. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm interested in why you wanted to be a part of this discussion. I know there was a photo that was tweeted out of you, Evan, last week, sitting reading this book.
With my feet on my desk.
With your feet on your desk. You look pretty comfortable. But how did you get involved and what made you want to read that book?
Well, when I was contacted by the library, they were looking to do this book club. And when I found out that the book that they were looking at was geared towards adolescents and was dealing with some real life issues that we deal with and we unfortunately see in our schools here in Regina, I thought this was a good fit for us. We have police officers in schools as school resource officers, and even our frontline officers deal with people finding themselves in a moment of crisis, usually some sort of mental health related crisis. Bullying in schools, all of those types of things. And you throw in like cybercrime and cyberbullying isn't something that's mentioned in the book, but I think the conversation continues on from there. It seemed like a good fit for me to read the book, to be involved in this discussion.
Although the internet played a role, right, in that story.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, as it does in young people's lives. What about you, Jim? What made you want to be a part of this?
Yeah, for me, I mean, our focus is on youth education. And when we go into when we go into schools, we want to create a conversation around mental health and the relationship with mental illness. And when this kind of came out, I knew that crowd and that that age group of people was watching it. And it was creating a conversation, but it also was kind of getting shut down in conversation in other outlets, and I wanted to be part of it.
What do you mean? How is it being shut down?
Like some schools, some teachers aren't allowing it to be discussed in their classroom. Some parents are worried about it being watched, or they're kind of trying to stop it.
And what do you think about that? Because that's always the concern, right? That if we talk about it, it'll encourage it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a worry for me because they're probably going to see it anyways. They're going to talk to their peers about it. It's going to be a discussion, and I just think there needs to be an avenue of a higher discussion going on with it, because all the controversy, it's a fictional story that is creating a conversation, but it has some real life kind of topics getting discussed, and I just want there to be a discussion around it. And so I wanted to be a part of that when I was asked. I thought it was a good thing to be a part of.
So, Evan, how closely did parts of that story mirror what your officers see?
Very close. Yeah, very close. That's the sad reality of it, and what we see in the schools. We work, hand in hand with the teachers in Regina, and a lot of the issues that happen that precipitate problems in schools start off as very small issues. If you look at an issue in and of itself, sometimes you think, well, that doesn't seem like a big deal to me, a middle-aged adult. But when you're 15 years old,
and your peer group is everything,
right,
it's
that's
your
right.
world.
That is your world, and that's all you know. Perception is reality, and I think one of the most poignant parts of this book, and I'm sure we're going to get into it tonight, is the role that a teacher or a police officer or an authority figure can play when a teenager finds themselves at that fork in the road. There is a real opportunity there to help steer that person in the right direction and get them help.
Are we missing that moment generally right now?
I think sometimes we do, even with the best of intentions. I think sometimes we do, and I think that young teens or people that are in crisis are judging when they come out and tell you their problem. They are judging every move, every eye movement, every arm fold that you make, whether or not you believe them, whether you trust them, whether you're re-victimizing them. It's a learning point. It's a teaching point for all of our officers, I think, if you read into this book. And I think it's something that we can become better because of it.
Yeah. You see those pivotal moments too, Jim, where that trust, if you can establish that trust, you can actually change the course parts
For sure.
of
I
a
mean,
young person's life?
When we discuss mental health with the people we discuss it with, I mean, they're looking for support, and I think that's what we offer. We offer experienced people that have dealt with mental illness that are talking about it in an honest way, respectfully, not sugarcoating it, and that's a form of leadership for these people, and they look for that attachment and that automatic understanding. And I think that's where, with what Evan is saying here, that it's it's amazing, that point of view of how people need a little bit of support, and that avenue cannot stop because once it does, then it can get ugly.
Do you guys think that more broadly we do need to change the way we talk about suicide? I know at CBC we have all these policies because you don't want copycats. You have to be so cautious. But do you think, generally speaking, as a society, we need to change the way that we talk about?
I mean, I'm not more as worried as how we talk about it as the causes of it. I mean, from my angle and from my point of view, I think it starts so much earlier, and the support and the education needs to go so much further.
So where does it start? How do you, when you look at how it started in this story, right? There was a photograph of this girl that she thought perfectly innocent. She's going down a slide in the TV show. Anyway, I haven't read the book, and you can see parts of her that you shouldn't be able to see, and that makes the rounds, and that's the start of it. So where, in your view, if you're saying deal with the start of it and the root of it, where is that?
Okay, well, mental illness aside, to me, that is where you start with education of mental illness, mental health, and everything. But this book really shows the polarizing theme of, you need to teach people that the context in which they speak to people is perceived differently from them of what they mean it. And that's a very sensitive thing, and that you always need to be mindful of. And the other side of it, the side that is harder to take, is that you also need to teach people to not be defined by other people's opinions of them. And that's, that's
hard to get across to teenagers.
It's very tough. And that's, both of those ideas are stuff we talk about, and I think it's important, but we need to get just louder with that conversation.
Yeah. What are you hoping, Evan, that people come tonight to this discussion? What are you hoping they leave with?
Well, I think it's a very good discussion. It's a healthy discussion to have. I'm hoping that we're going to have people there that this will help them, that this will help them understand. I talk quite often about the drip in the glass, and a lot of things that happen in this book, they were drips of water in a glass, and it eventually gets to a point where it's going to start to overflow. And that's where we need to try and help people find coping skills. I think what Jim mentioned about not being defined by what other people are saying or these individual moments. And the other side of that is understanding how individual moments or what seems like a very meaningless interaction can have a real big effect on a person. And so being mindful of that, it's very tough. We're talking about treating people with respect and dignity, some basic things that our parents taught us when we were young. But I think really that's what it comes down to is just that, how we treat one another.
Are you looking at actually having immersed yourself in this, reading the book and getting involved in all of this? Are you looking at any kinds of changes?
Well, I think what it does speak to me especially, is it speaks to the importance that we play when someone comes forward to us with their issue. And if we feel that their issue is that they're considering suicide or they're considering harming themselves, we receive training in that, and so our officers, our school resource officers, but all of our frontline officers have that kind of training. But I think it's not only that, it's the follow-up. It's connecting them to services, because our interaction often is at the point of crisis, but after an hour or so, things have calmed down. Then what? We need to bring in the gyms and the other support groups and make sure that this support is ongoing, because that relapse is very possible. So it's much more than just that moment of crisis. It's well beyond that as well.
Yeah. And for you tonight, Jim, what are you hoping for?
Well, that's a big question. I'm hoping for great, honest dialogue. I'm hoping for people to come in with perceptions of what they feel about it, and for them to change from hearing people speak honestly and intelligently, and to maybe gain a different perspective. Because I think the conversation needs to happen, but it needs to happen openly and not with any agenda.
All right. Thanks, both of you, for coming in.
Thank you.